Hi there. I'm going to continue reading No Fixed Address by Susan Nielsen to Helen's class of Divisions 1, 2, and 3. We started this book before we went on our break, and I thought we'd just continue. And we're at the part where Felix is going to start school. Now, some of you guys are a little bit ahead, but I thought I'd start there since one of the divisions hadn't read to that part yet. So rather than watching me read it, I'm going to introduce the book as I said, and then I'm going to read for a period of time, and then I'll stop, and then I'll introduce the next time for the next reading. So I'm not going to read the whole book, and I'm going to switch to just an audio, so you don't have to watch my face the whole time. You can just listen to me read the story. And as I'm reading the book, I'd like you to continue doing the 4 square activity that we had started before. So you may either write notes about what's going on, or you can draw what you imagine is happening in the scene, whichever one you prefer. And so right now I'm going to start reading on page 45, and I'll see how far I get.
No Fixed Address, page 45. I was diarrhea nervous on my first day at Blenheim, which isn't good in the best of times, and really isn't good when you're living in a van. Luckily, we'd spent that night parked a few blocks from the school across from the local community center. Astrid had planned it that way, so we'd have a place to freshen up in the morning. I dashed over to use their toilet 3 times in a half an hour. The day before, we'd driven to Soleil's house to collect more things, some thicker sweaters, warmer jackets and shoes, and school supplies I'd had from last year. The driveway was empty when we arrived, and all the blinds were drawn. I don't think anyone's home, I said. Not a problem. Astrid pulled away. I thought we were leaving. Instead, she made 2 right-hand turns and stopped in the alley outside Soleil's back gate. My intestines clenched. What are you doing? Going inside. Mom, I said. She looked at me sharply. She doesn't like me calling her that. We are not breaking in. Who said anything about breaking in? She pulled a key from her pocket. Soleil gave you a key? I asked as we climbed out of the van. Astrid opened the back gate. Yes and no. She gave it to me for our stay. I had a copy made before I gave it back. My intestines re-clenched. Then we are breaking in. She inserted the key into the door. Not if we're the only taking our own things. I started to hiccup. This happens when I get anxious. What if they come home? They won't. They're away on vacation. I did my research. So you planned it this way? Hick. Astrid pushed the door open. We were greeted by a high-pitched whine, an alarm system. My bowels loosened. But Astrid punched a code into the alarm pad, and the high-pitched sound stopped. Bonna, it's okay. Soleil will never know we were here. We wound up spending the entire afternoon there. Astrid did all of our laundry. Then in the guest washroom, she filled a bath with bubbles for me. My reluctance melted away when I got into that tub. It was glorious. While I was soaking and shampooing, she filled the jacuzzi tub in the master bathroom for herself. I'm ashamed to admit this now, but we also raided their freezer. A frozen lasagna was calling out to us, so we cooked it and ate it. Astrid found a plastic container in one of Soleil's drawers and put the leftovers for me to take for lunch. It was actually pretty awesome, being inside a real house for the first time in a month. So after dinner, we still didn't leave. We sat in the family room and watched TV, including Who, What, Where, When, my favorite. It's like Jeopardy on steroids. Unlike Alex Trebek, the host of Who, What, Where, When, Horatio Blast waves his arms and speaks in a booming voice and always says, woohoo, a lot. I shouted out the answers before the contestants. I was almost always right. This is not a brag. It is simply that I have a strange knack for storing facts. And since my mom has studied everything from anthropology to world history to English literature, I've picked up on a truckload of facts over the years. You are a sponge, a teacher said to me once. I'd quoted from memory Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. While we watched TV, my gaze drifted to an enormous black and white family portrait that hung above the fireplace. Soleil, her husband, and their twin sons were wearing almost identical outfits, off-white crew neck sweaters and dark pants. I felt a twinge of envy. I will not deny it. They looked so happy, so rich. We didn't want to draw attention by putting on the lights, so we left as darkness started to fall. I feel it's important to mention that we left the place spotless, cleaner perhaps than when we had arrived. And we took all we took was the lasagna in the plastic container and a beer for Astrid and a soda for me. It was a pretty sure strange coincidence when a week later my mom was wearing a sweater I hadn't seen before, off-white, crew neck. Astrid gave me a once-over before I left for school. My hair was, as always, a massive poof of blonde, and it was silky clean and smelled magnificent. I wore jeans bought at Value Village. Why anyone shops anywhere else is beyond me. And my favorite t-shirt, which had a Canadian flag on it and the words member of the A team. You look great, Astrid said. I hope it's a wonderful day. Same to you. She was going job hunting. She wore a pair of gray dress pants, ballet flats, and one of her pretty blouses. Astrid knows how to make a good first impression, and it's later impressions that are sometimes a problem. I walked a few blocks to Blenheim. It was a beautiful day. Chestnut trees lined either side of the street, their leaves rustling in the breeze. My stomach burbled because I had only eaten a banana for breakfast. I was too nervous for anything more. When I walked through the front doors of the old yellow brick building, I tried to carry myself with confidence I didn't feel. My eyes just happened to land on a boy farther down the hall. He looked like he'd gotten out of bed 5 minutes earlier. His striped t-shirt and jeans were wrinkled. He had a wicked case of bedhead, and he'd accidentally tucked his shirt into his underpants. I recognized him immediately. It was Dylan Brinkerhoff, my old best friend. Dylan, hi, I said, my voice crackling. He turned around and looked at me blankly for a moment. My heart sank. Then his lips parted into a big grin, revealing a mouthful of metal. Felix! He threw his arms around me and gave me a hug. Are you here for the late French immersion? He spoke with a slight lisp thanks to the braces, like they were pulling on his tongue. Yes, please tell me you are too. I am. Does this mean you're back in the neighborhood? It does indeed. That's so great. Where do you live? I blinked rapidly. I hadn't expected the question so soon. On the west side, but barely. Long bus ride, I told myself. It was an invisible lie. Who's your teacher? He asked. Monsieur Thibault. Sam, what are the odds? I was about to say the odds were pretty good since there were only 2 late immersion classes, but I didn't. Oh man, this is so awesome. I could not have agreed more. Dylan and I found seats in the middle of the classroom. It felt like a safe place to start. I counted 28 kids, an even split of boys and girls, and there were none of the normal first day chatter. The most of us had come from different schools for the program. We were all new, which was frankly a relief. A man walked into the room. He looked like maybe he was 25, but he had big, thick arms and a broad chest. He sported a black beard and carefully manicured handlebar mustache. He had tattoos, lots and lots of tattoos. Bonjour, je m'appelle Monsieur Thibault. Hello, I'm Mr. Thibault. Dylan and I glanced at each other. Mr. Thibault looked more like a Hell's Angel than a teacher. He told us in English that he'd been born and raised in Quebec City, and they had nine brothers and sisters. He reminded us that we were all in the same boat, so there was no need to be nervous. My POO told me he was going to be great. For today and only today, we will speak English. Starting tomorrow, everything will be en français. Now, let's go around the room and introduce ourselves. Tell us why you chose to be in this program. He started at the back and worked his way up. When it was Dylan's turn, he said, I'm Dylan Brinkerhoff. My older sisters, Cricket and Alberta, did this program. They said I should do it too. I guess that's why I'm here. I was next. I'm Felix Knutson. I'm half Swedish and I've never learned much Swedish. And I'm a quarter Haitian and a quarter French. But I don't know Creole or French. I like languages and I like to challenge myself. So here I am. Most of the introductions were like ours, short and in English. Then Monsieur Thibault got to the final student, who sat predictably in retrospect in the front row. Winnie Wu. Winnie's long black hair was coiled into a French braid, which I had later realized was intentional. French braid. Get it? She wore a white blouse and a plaid skirt with red knee socks and black leather shoes. Around her neck was a gold chain with 2 pendants, a jade heart and a little gold cross. On her head, tilted artfully, was a red beret. Je suis ici parce que j'aime beaucoup toutes les choses françaises. J'étais les listening tapes pour educate. Silence. Most of us could hardly count to 10 in French. We had no idea what she had just said. But Mr. Trudeau broke into a delighted grin. Excellent, Winnie. She wasn't finished. Mes parents m'ont amené à Las Vegas l'hiver passé et j'ai vu la Tour Eiffel et vraiment c'était l'amour au premier regard. Maintenant, j'aime toutes les choses françaises, la cuisine, la culture, le cinéma. Quand nous aurons assez d'argent, nous allons visiter le vrai Paris. Et un jour, je veux vivre en France. Mr. Thibault gave us a condensed version. Winnie became a devoted Francophile after seeing the Eiffel Tower. Then he coughed in Las Vegas. And it was like 2 years hadn't passed since I'd last seen Dylan, but we looked at each other and cracked up because in our own special way that only we could hear. We spent the rest of the day playing games and getting to know each other. When the bell rang, Dylan asked, "Want to come over?" I wanted to so badly, but I was anxious to find out about how my mom's day had gone. "I can't today. How about tomorrow?" "Sure." We walked together into our lockers. "Hey, do you still have your poltergeist?" When I first met Dylan, he had been convinced that their house was a friendly but mischievous poltergeist named Bernard because his things were always going missing. "Yeah, I'm pretty sure he took a sock this morning." I smiled. I loved that Dylan still believed in Bernard. We said our goodbyes, and I walked back to the van and did a special knock on the side. Astrid slid the door open. "How was your first day?" I told her about the new school and Dylan. "That's wonderful, Felix. How was yours?" She smiled. "I got a job at a coffee shop in Kerrisdale. Being there, done that." I said I had a lot of experience serving coffee, which is essentially true. I serve myself coffee every morning. We high-fived. "Astrid, that's wonderful. Pay isn't great, but there's lots of shifts, and I get to keep whatever is in the tip jar. It'll do till something better comes along. And in the meantime, we can start looking for a place. I'll be able to give a work reference and show my pay stub in a couple of weeks." We celebrated. Astrid heated up 2 cans of vegetarian chili on the stove, and I gave her ratio extra lettuce. We sat at our collapsible lawn chairs in the park across the street and ate our chili al fresco, along with some raw carrots and cucumber. We had apples and store-bought cookies for dessert. By 10 p.m., we were in our beds, reading by headlamp, and that's when there was a tap on the van door. Astrid sat bolt upright. "Who is it?" "Just a concerned neighbor," a man's voice. "You guys have been parked here for a few nights in a row. Just wondering who you're visiting." "Our friends," Astrid said smoothly. "We sleep out here to give them space." "I see. Which houses your friends live in?" "The flesh pink one." Flesh pink houses are everywhere in this neighborhood. "The Woodridges?" "That's right." "Okay, I'm just going to go knock on their door to confirm." "Please do." I peeled back one of the curtains and watched him walk down the block. My mom climbed into the driver's seat. "Sorry, Felix. We'll need to find a new spot for tonight." The man glanced up as we rode past, and Astrid gave him the 1-finger salute. I'm going to end there for today, students. And so next time I read, I'll give you another activity.